Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
He needs care and treatment.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Is this a great country or what?
Locking down the middle of the day, live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. If you missed any of hour number 1, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. Just search Hunt Palmer Show. Sean Fazan jumped aboard in hour number 1 to talk Saints, who are on the practice field tomorrow for training camp. Officially reports down in Metairie. Talked a little bit about LSU's basketball schedule in hour number 1 and broke down my take on the Logan Schmidt situation for LSU baseball. If you missed that this weekend, he was taken in the second round of the MLB draft, is not going to sign. The deadline is 2 hours away. Now the question is, will he go to LSU or will he go to junior college? I gave kind of the reasons why he is not signing and my thoughts on his future. So you can go back and catch that on demand, or you can read about it over at LouisianaSports.net. Speaking of LouisianaSports.net, I did a series breaking down LSU's depth chart offensively and defensively and whatever the special teams, and that's where we finish here, is with special teams, specifically the return game. We talked about their kicking and punting back on Friday, and now we'll talk about returning. Xavier Thomas and Barryon Brown both came in from SEC schools with a history of returning and making big plays in the return game, and both guys did score touchdowns in the return game at LSU. Xavier Thomas did so, I believe, twice. Barryon Brown finally got it done against Houston, the bowl game. Thomas scored 3 special teams touchdowns in his career, and he led the SEC in kickoff return yards in 2024. Both guys parlayed those return skills into NFL draft picks. You saw Xavier Thomas go to the Bears earlier than I thought he probably would, and the Saints took a swing at Barryon Brown as well. And I looked back at my notes from spring practice to look at who would be doing the returning, because you realize that Xavier Thomas and Barryon Brown are gone. And we don't know how Lane Kiffin is going to prioritize that. We certainly don't know how Joe Houston's going to prioritize that. Over the time just at LSU, different head coaches, different special teams coaches, you've seen different philosophies in the return game. Some guys are back there to make huge plays, like Xavier Thomas, like Barryon Brown, like Derek Stingley, like Trenton Holiday. And some guys are back there to catch the football and protect the football. Chad Jones comes to mind in that way. He did have an unbelievable return against Mississippi State, but he was back there to catch the football. I think Nick Brissett returning kickoffs. That's not a guy that you think is going to house one from 95 yards out, but he'll catch it and he'll control the football. So I'm curious to see what LSU tries to do. I like the playmakers. I like Stingley back there. I like Tyrann Mathieu back there. I like Patrick Peterson back there. Those are all defensive guys. I don't think LSU is going to put a defensive back there this year. Why? Because they're thin. They're thin at corner, and their safeties are going to be really impactful guys that I don't think are candidates. I don't think Deshaun Spears and Ty Benefield are candidates to go back there. And at corner, you're one cornerback injury away from being in big trouble. So you're not going to have a cornerback there. Your candidates are wide receivers and running backs. And I went back and looked at my notes from spring practice to see who we saw working with kick return, working with punt return. And this is from my notes. I can't promise you this is complete, and I can't promise you that this is what it's going to look like when we go out there in a couple weeks. But this is what I had in my notebook from the spring. Caden Durham, Harlem Berry, Dylan Jones, Stacey Gage, Corey Barber. That group did a lot on kickoff return. It's the running backs, and then Corey Barber, the freshman wide receiver that was an Ole Miss commitment that flipped to LSU. They did a lot of work in kickoff return. It would not surprise me at all to see those guys back there. I think Caden Durham makes a ton of sense. He does have some real speed. He's low to the ground. He's got some experience carrying the football. I like that a lot. I think Harlem Berry could be a good kickoff returner. Dylan Jones, I don't know quite enough about. Just know the highlight tapes and what he looks like in person. That's a big physical guy. I'm not sure of his top-end speed. Stacey Gage can really run, and Corey Barber is a really explosive wide receiver. So that would make some sense. LSU last year only returned 23 kickoffs, under 2 per game. The touchback still kind of reigns in college, where the NFL is really trying to get the kick return to be emphasized with the new rules that they put in. But only 23 kickoffs last year. That's not a lot of returns. I think Caden Durham is my bet to be the kickoff returner, but I wouldn't make a strong bet on that. Let's talk about punt returning, because that's a bigger variable here, right? That's where you can lose games, muffin punts and making misplays back there, and you can also change games with big plays in the return game. So I looked at LSU's players that were taking some punt return reps in spring and looked back at their history and if any of them did return punts where they were. Winnie Watkins did not field a punt last year at Ole Miss. Jace Brown did not return any punts at Kansas State. Dylan Jones did not return any punts for Wisconsin. Tyree Holloway is an interesting prospect for this because he's really shifty and short, and he's probably not going to be heavily used in the wide receiver game, so it's not like a big risk to put him back there as far as like injury or fatigue or anything like that. Maybe he can specialize in that. But these guys did not return punts last year at their previous stops. But here are the guys that I saw doing most of the punt returning. Jace Brown, Winnie Watkins, Dylan Jones, Trey Wilson from Florida, Tyree Holloway, and Jabari Mack, freshman wide receiver, who comes in from New Orleans. I look at these guys with different skill sets. Winnie Watkins and Trey Wilson are shorter and really quick. They're in like the Skylar Green mold where they're, shifty back there, right? Jace Brown is just a really smooth route runner. He's got a little bit more height than those guys. I don't know if he's as fast as them, but he is really smooth in space. Dylan Jones is a big physical running back. I don't think he's going to be back there returning punts. And Jabari Mack's got elite speed, big-time speed for Jabari Mack. Tyree Holloway is another one of those shorter, shiftier guys. I kind of think Jace Brown might be a punt returner. Now, again, this is a deal where I don't know enough about Kiffin and don't know how he operates. How do you feel putting your number one receiver out there? And Jace Brown might be the number one receiver. I don't know. Like Ruben Randall went back there and caught punts for LSU as a number one receiver. And that's, again, another guy that you weren't really counting on to hit a big play, but he would catch it. He'd catch the football. So this is a very, very interesting. I'd be okay with a lot of these guys. The only problem I saw in the spring was that Trey Wilson muffed 3 punts that I saw. Just that I saw he muffed 3. Like, that is a huge red flag to me. You muff 1 punt in practice, I'll get over it. It's March, okay, whatever. But 3, and it wasn't like we were out there that much for punt coverage. So that was a red flag to me of like, if that happens routinely, it's probably not the best idea I've ever seen. But his suddenness and quickness, when you watch him run routes, it's like, oh, that guy would be an incredible returner. So I kind of think Jace Brown's my pick, but I'd be fine with Winnie Watkins back there. I'd be fine with Trey Wilson back there. I'd be fine with Tyree Holloway specializing in that. And look, Jabari Mack's a freshman, so I doubt that very seriously. But this is an important role that LSU needs to get filled at punt returner. It's got to be. You have no shortage of options, but we'll see. I'll go with Jace Brown and see if that ends up being what comes of it. So that's a look at the entirety of the LSU roster. We went through the offensive line, tight ends, wideouts, running backs, quarterbacks, defensive tackles, edge rushers, linebackers, corners, safeties, kickers, punters, and returners. Pretty much hit it all. So if I mentioned this on Friday of last week, if you don't really lock in on football during the summer, you're on vacation, you're playing golf, you're at the lake or the beach or whatever the case may be, and you're feeling like, all right, it's time to kind of ease back into football. One of my buddies texted me something kind of similar to that the other day. And if that's the case with you and you'd like to freshen up on this LSU football team, go back to LouisianaSports.net, click the teams tab, and then go to LSU football, and you'll go and you'll see my in-depth chart. They're all there. Every single position is written through in depth, and you can familiarize yourself with the roster with a lot of new dudes. If you'd like to do it in terms of a podcast or in visual modem, you can do it through Hunt on LSU as well. We've got all the episodes saved up there at the YouTube channel. We've got to every position in-depth chart, but that'll conclude our run through LSU's roster with the return game, which I expect LSU to be pretty good in, despite the fact that they lost 2 damn good ones in Barryon Brown and Xavion Thomas. Our Monday show is brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions, online at guaranteehealth.com, guaranteehealth.com. When we come back, there's an LSU player that was called a Lock Hall of Famer. And I didn't know that was necessarily the reality, but the description kind of made sense. We'll tell you who it is next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Our friends at Auctioner want to remind you to stay hydrated because this time of year, the heat can take its toll. We were talking about it when we hung up the phone with Sean Fazand earlier. We go out to those football practices, and you feel it in the heat of the day. Look, you got to pay attention to some symptoms of heat-related sickness. Dry or sticky mouth, feeling lightheaded, not using the bathroom as much, maybe your heart rate's elevated, mental changes, that's a major red flag. The key here is if you feel off, stop. If you feel off, stop. If you're out for less than an hour, make sure you drink a cup of water every 15 minutes. If you're out for over an hour, you need to mix in some electrolytes as well. Do it with the limited sugar options. And just stay hydrated. If you feel off, stop. And if you're developing dehydration symptoms, you need medical attention, find your nearest Ochsner Urgent Care at ochsner.org/UC. That's ochsner.org/UC.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. Guarantee Health Solutions, guiding healthcare forward. GuaranteeHealth.com.
Monday show is always brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions, online at GuaranteeHealth.com, GuaranteeHealth.com. Interesting piece on ESPN.com today by Bill Barnwell talking about the 2011 draft. It was headlined by Cam Newton, but he asked if it was the greatest draft of all time. And then he writes in one of the blurbs, in the subheadings, the Hall of Fame locks from the 2011 draft. J.J. Watt is first. I don't have any argument with that. Was as dominant an edge player as there was in the league for a number of years. Von Miller, I don't have any problem with that. It's a guy that is ticketed for the Hall of Fame for sure. Defensive Rookie of the Year from this class. Was second in the Defensive Player of the Year, balloting twice. He's ninth all-time in career sacks. Played a key role in 2 Super Bowl wins, one for the Broncos, one for the Rams, and Super Bowl MVP for a 2.5 sack Super Bowl against the Panthers back in Super Bowl 50. So, yeah, it makes sense. Richard Sherman. Yeah, he was as good a corner as there was for a while. Was a big personality, 5th-round pick that turned into a heck of a player and can really go. And the next guy on the list is Patrick Peterson. And I wouldn't say I was shocked to hear that he's a lock Hall of Famer, but I will admit to you readily that I don't know if I was prepared to say that this morning. I don't think I was aware that he was a lock Hall of Famer before I read this piece. I know that Patrick Peterson had a really good and long NFL career, no question. I know that he was always considered a really good player. I just don't know if I knew he was a lock to get into the Hall of Fame. The writing on this was really crystallized things for me. Barnwell writes, if Peterson doesn't feel like a lock, consider this fact. And that made me feel better because at least he's writing saying, yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but if you're not sure, here's why. The LSU product made it to the Pro Bowl in each of his first 8 seasons. He's one of just 16 players to start their career going 8 for 8 in the Pro Bowl. 12 of those are eligible for the Hall of Fame, and all of them are in. The 3 others who are not yet eligible for this enshrinement are Aaron Donald, Tyreek Hill, and Quentin Nelson, each of whom are likely to walk in as a first ballot entrant. Peterson might have had relatively muted into his career after that 8-year start, but it would be a surprise if he had much trouble getting into the Hall. I mean, obviously I knew Aaron Donald was walking in the Hall of Fame, and yes, Quentin Nelson makes a ton of sense as well. I'm not even sure if I knew that Tyreek Hill was a first ballot Hall of Famer. I know he's put up some monster numbers in Kansas City and then right there at the beginning in Miami before he got hurt. But that didn't click to me as first ballot Hall of Famer. I guess my sense on this is not great, but I'm thrilled to hear that stat that it looks like, everybody who's ever gone 8 for 8 on their first 8 years making the Pro Bowl gets in the Hall of Fame, and Peterson did that. I'm not sure if there was a point where Patrick Peterson was the best corner in football, but obviously with the return game that he had early in his career and the longevity and the length of time where he played excellent football, I think that you start to understand that he is going to go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He was a 3-time first-team All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler, and was on the Hall of Fame All-2010s team. So that's a pretty good run. I mean, 3-time first-team All-Pro is a loud mouthful to say about Patrick Peterson. To this day, I think Patrick Peterson is as physically gifted an athlete as I've ever seen at LSU. There are just some guys that do some things out there that you look at and go, whoa. And for me, the first time I ever saw Patrick Peterson run a kickoff back, I saw the speed that he was moving with, and you knew the size. That was always obvious. But when he got to full speed, I just don't know if I've ever seen anybody look like that. Maybe Fournette on one of his best days, but Peterson was a different dude. And when he took those kicks back against North Carolina on the carpet of the Georgia Dome, it was like, whoa. Like that. I mean, I just could not believe the acceleration. He had a punt return against West Virginia that looked good, and he did some things that were impressive. But the speed he showed against North Carolina on those two returns was just remarkable. And I remember an interesting, like, your eyes go to it when you're in the stadium. When he was man up with Julio Jones, like that is you can't look away at those two guys because you could just tell when they showed up on their respective campuses. When Julio Jones, who was from Foley, Alabama, showed up in Tuscaloosa, when Patrick Peterson comes over from Pompano Beach to LSU, they showed up looking like NFL guys. It's just it's becoming more prevalent this day and age because there's just more information out there about weight training, and kids are just more prepared to play than they've ever been. But at that time, freshmen didn't show up looking like that. And he did. And it was just amazing to watch him immediately. He was immediately one of the best players on the team. And by the time you got to 2010, he was one of the best players in the nation. And it was cool that a guy that spent his time here at LSU and that had that career is considered in that light. I just didn't necessarily immediately go to that when I thought about him. And I was wrong because this kind of proves its point. But to go through the guys in that draft class, Alden Smith, who was amazing for San Francisco early in his career. You had him. You had Jimmy Smith, Prince Amukamara. You had Robert Quinn, who was a really good player from that draft as well. Justin Houston was stud out of that class. Marcel Darius was a first-team All-Pro for the Bills and retired in his 20s. You got Cameron Hayward, who's just played for 16 seasons in the NFL. That's been a really, really good player. And then the last guy on this list that you're probably thinking in your head, Cam Jordan, who's potentially going to go to the Hall of Fame. Like, that's a pretty salty draft class when you consider the talent, the depth, and the potential Hall of Famers. And you just think about the edge with J.J. Watt, Cam Jordan. That's two dudes that have got a lot of sacks to their name.
Is Cam the only one still playing?
Cam Hayward,
yeah, he's still
is unsigned, but he's not announced that he's done.
Okay, so it's really just those two at this point.
Yeah. You know who Cam Hayward played with in high school?
Yeah, T-Bob. Every time he talks. Come on, man.
Yeah.
T-Bob talked about every morning.
All right, I didn't know. Two left standing in 2026, 15 years after that draft. That draft's going to produce a lot of Hall of Famers, and I think Cam's going to make it. We'll see where he finishes on the sack list this year. I haven't taken the time to look at what's attainable for him, like who's within like 10. And I think that's probably the ceiling for Cam with sacks this year. I'm well aware of what he did last year. I think 10 is probably the ceiling for him. I would probably wager closer to 5 for him this year. But if there's some guys right there in front of him, maybe able to move up. I know he's in the top 10 at this point.
He's 17.
Oh, I thought he was in the top 10.
Yeah, he's 17. He's 132. He can get Lawrence Taylor at 132 and a half.
Well, that's very doable.
I'm about to say, so Lawrence Taylor. So Lawrence Taylor, John Abrams, 133. Yeah. Leslie O'Neal, 132 and a half.
How much to get into the top 10?
All right, so top 10 right now is DeMarcus Ware at 138. So Cam's at 132.
So he needs to get 6.5 sacks.
Yeah.
That's probably like around the Vegas line on him. If he stays healthy, 6.5 is probably the Vegas line.
Yeah.
To get into the top 10 all time. And that's probably when I'm surprised he wasn't in the top 10. I think I read somewhere that he's likely to get in the top 10 this year if he stays healthy, and that would be that'd be amazing. If he's in the top 10 in sacks all time, you have to put him in. And look, there's probably a lot of people listening right now that are going, "What are you even talking about?" Of course he's in the Hall of Fame, and maybe so, but there are some guys that are just easier for me to do. So like I don't have to think about Aaron Donald.
Oh, there's no conversation.
But I have to think about Patrick Peterson. I don't have to think about J.J. Watt, but I have to think about Cam Jordan. But the longevity, and I think there's something to longevity. I think that's part of the resume. I hear the term compiler a lot. Well, he just hung around and scored more points in basketball, or hung around and got more statistics. But to be able to hang around is impressive. Like, I don't know that Frank Gore was ever the best back in the NFL.
No, but he played forever.
But he played forever, and that's amazing.
At running back. It's
amazing. So, like, that's part of the resume. And when you play that long and stay employable that long at that level, the NFL cannot wait to cut guys loose and get younger and cheaper. They just do. It's like a bodily function for them.
Cam Jordan, he literally was going through it.
So to just to be able to stick around, I think is part of the resume. So it's an interesting piece. I read a lot of it, and it had a little bit of a local angle with Patrick Peterson and Cam Jordan. So hopefully both those guys go into the Hall of Fame in short order. That's an interesting story up by Bill Barnware up there at ESPN.com. Is the 2011 NFL Draft the best defensive class ever? All right, let's take a timeout. We'll come back, talk a little Saints next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Love telling you about friends at Marucci. Get on by and take a tour. Two reasons why you would do that. One, to see the facility where they make the official bat of Major League Baseball. You can see where they make 1,200 every single day. You can see where they mold them, they stain them, ship them off to the best players in the world. It's a very, very cool tour to go on and see that. You can also, while you're taking the tour, learn the story of two ex-big leaguers and their trainer making a bat in the backyard, how it takes a 20-year evolution to the official bat of Major League Baseball. It's awesome stuff. So go by and take a tour. The kids are just clamoring to get out of the house. Summer vacation's trying to wind down, but looking for something to do. A tour of Marucci is always a great option. And with that tour comes a discount in the hitter's house with that ticket. So you can get it at MarucciSports.com. Go take a tour of Marucci and check them out online at MarucciSports.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. Guarantee Health Solutions, guiding healthcare forward. GuaranteeHealth.com.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years of redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. I've told you all this a couple of times, and I know that it sounds crazy when it's 105 degrees outside, and I'm talking about Christmas, but I talked to David Duvall about it. It makes sense. If you are planning to have a big family get-together for Christmas or Thanksgiving, which comes up a month sooner, now's the time to potentially get that bathroom redone, to start that process, to get things laid out, to get that work started so that it's complete by the time that big family gathering comes around. David says he hears from people all the time at the end of summer with an eye on the holidays because things happen, fall gets on you and you get into a routine, time starts going quickly, and then all of a sudden you look up and you've got a dysfunctional bathroom and you got 20 people coming. Well, that's a problem. So think about it now. If you're planning on having a big family gathering and you haven't been to that upstairs bathroom in a while, or you know that bathroom that y'all seldom use in the house that might get used that weekend, but there's an issue with it, call David, have him come in. Now's the time to think about that so that you can get out in front of it, get it done, and check that off the list before the craziness of the holidays is upon us. He's happy to have that conversation with you. Reach out and get that free consultation at OneBathAndClosets.com, OneBathAndClosets.com. All right, I just want to go so surface area on this because starting tomorrow, we'll get in depth on the Saints. So I want to just look very, very much zoomed out at this, at my overarching themes of training camp for New Orleans. It obviously starts with Shuck, right? I'm not going to try to bury that and find you some cool other angle. We mentioned this with Sean Fazan in hour number one. There's very little that matters significantly if the Shuck thing doesn't work. Your cap situation doesn't matter if the Shuck thing doesn't work. All the new playmakers that you went and got in the offseason don't matter if Shuck doesn't work. Your coach is in big trouble if Shuck doesn't work. If Tyler Shuck busts, then you're in big trouble. I don't have any significant reason to believe that's going to happen, but not saying that out loud would be foolish. That's the biggest story of this entire thing. And as we mentioned, this time last year, Shuck was just trying to work for his second-team reps, just kind of splitting some reps with Rattler. Now, he gets a full baptism of a training camp to be the starting quarterback. And I think this could be as impactful a 6 weeks as Tyler Shuck has in his career because you've got a little bit of experience, you've got the full reign of the offense, and you've got the opportunity to make so many strides, so many improvements because you get so many practices. There's an element of when he took over last year in the middle of the season where, like, you're so deep into the season and it's week to week and it's opponent based and you're trying to game plan for games. For the next 6 weeks, Tyler Shuck can just worry about the Saints and Tyler Shuck. And that's hard to do when you got to go play the Giants next week. Like, you got to know the Giants. So this is a huge, huge camp for Tyler Shuck, and I think it's going to be a really, really good one. So that's obviously number one. Breaking news, the Saints' second-year quarterback needs to be good. The second one is the most obvious for all the teams in the NFL. It's how's your first-round pick looking? Because that's a guy you brought in to help. First-round picks are brought in to help. Second-round picks are brought in to start. And then the guys from the third round on, you hope you find some depth pieces and a diamond in the rough here or there. But your first two picks need to hit, need to contribute right away. And that's Jordan Tyson's situation. And so for him, it starts with health. They didn't really let him do much of anything in the summer workouts, the OTAs, minicamp, all that. Like, there just wasn't a lot of Jordan Tyson. He was there, just wasn't doing a lot. What is he doing tomorrow? Is it still kid gloves, or is it time to go? I don't know. We'll see. But it's a big, big story because he is the most gifted wide receiver on this team. He is a more gifted wide receiver than Chris Olave. That doesn't make him better. It just means size, speed, athleticism, playmaking ability. Like, he's just got some traits that outweigh Chris Olave's. So he raises the ceiling of this Saints offense significantly, but he's got to be on the field to do it. Big, big deal. How long does Chris Olave stay in camp? Is there a chance that he, in the middle of this thing, starts to look for a new contract and stops practicing? Because I don't really want that. I want him to play with Tyler Shuck. I want him to practice with Tyler Shuck. I just told you in the intro here that this is perhaps the most impactful 6 weeks of Tyler Shuck's early career. I need the veteran receiver out there. And it sounds like, from those that cover the team, that Chris Olave is interested in the Saints winning this year. And that he's interested in a new contract, but he's interested in the Saints winning this year, and he's going to be a part of that. And I told you last year how much I thought of Alvin Kamara doing what he did in the middle of a contract negotiation, playing through pain, showing up for work, being part of a team that wasn't really going anywhere while they were negotiating a new contract. I didn't like the new contract, but I liked Alvin's professionalism. And I kind of expect the same from Chris Olave. I think he would like the Saints to pay up. I think the Saints would like to go a little bit under the market. But ultimately, how long do you keep Chris Olave in camp? Because him pulling out, which, again, I have no inclination he's planning on doing, would be a big deal. Guys do it every year, and Olave is in a position to do it because the market's been set at wide receiver. And, like, we talked about it with Sean Fazan in hour number one. Like, yeah, Drake London got a ton of money. But guess what? Everybody that signs a new deal at that position with the numbers next to Chris Olave's name gets a huge deal. It's coming. But they need to do it before he starts to hold out. This is another very, very obvious one, but that's kind of where we're living right now. The health of your offensive line is very important. Eric McCoy cannot miss 6 more weeks this year. He needs to be out there, protecting his quarterback, staying healthy. You invested heavily in left guard in the offseason. You invested heavily in terms of draft capital with your 2 tackles. That group needs to become a strength. When you go out and you invest back-to-back first-round picks at offensive tackle, and then you go out and spend the most money of any team in the NFL at left guard, the investment you have put into that position in both resources in the draft and then literal money suggests it should be a strength of your football team. It should be a strength of your team. Well, they need to be out there, and they need to be a strength of the team. Year 3 for Fuaga. Year 2 for Banks. Edwards coming in. McCoy off injury. Ruiz is what it is. But that needs to be a strength of the team, and it needs to show that. And when you go out and you play in these joint practices, and I don't know how much preseason action we're going to see from these guys, but they need to be dominant at times. They need to assert themselves up front. The best Saints teams early on in Breeze's tenure, yeah, Breeze was chucking it all over the place, and Colston's making plays, and Reggie Bush is super fun. Yeah, it's all awesome, but you also had two of the best guards in the NFL, and your offensive line was awesome. Awesome. You're great at left tackle. You were solid at right tackle. You need to get back to that. And it's been a mess, both in terms of the play and the injuries, for 3 years now. So, again, health is always paramount in camp. So that's not some sort of in-depth breakdown I'm giving you, but it's just crucial for this team too, because you got to get those guys healthy. And then I mentioned this last week, but we'll tie it all together because these are just general talking points that I've baked into one segment here. But I am intrigued by the kicking competition. And I do think that unlike 80% of the action in preseason games, the performance of the kickers in preseason is indicative of what you're going to be looking at in the regular season, because it's full speed and the game result doesn't matter, but those guys' professional job status matters, and that's what they're going out to kick for. You're doing that in the regular season too, but you're trying to win the game. But you can't simulate that pressure as much in practice. But I think in the stadiums against another team with your job on the line, I think that creates enough pressure to see how you perform in that moment. And I'm pulling for Charlie Smith, but I think there's going to be competition there. We're not in the Sean Payton era where we're firing kickers every 5 minutes, but you got to get, I mean, they gave Groupie the longest leash I've ever seen for a kicker missing kicks. He was missing on the weekly last year, and they kept trotting him out there. So there appears to be some real leniency at the position. I'm curious how that position shakes out, because as I mentioned last week, the Saints are probably likely to be in some close games. You need your kicker to come through in close games, no question. That is a story in training camp. I'm not concerned with what Kamara does in training camp. I don't care what Cam Jordan does in training camp. I know what Pete Werner is. I know what Caden Ellis is. I'm not concerned about Olave. I know what some of the free agent guys are. Like, I know what HN is. I know what he's going to be. I don't have a lot of concern about Justin Reed. I'm not concerned about the performance of Chase Young. Like, there are a lot of relative certainties on this team, but the variables are the ones that you're looking for here, and I think we're kind of checking those off one by one. I know corner depth and talent is a concern. I know they're going to figure out what Jonas Sanker can do at that star and nickel position. Those are interesting storylines as well. This is a team that has some storylines here and that has some room for growth, room for improvement, and I think that this is as optimistic a time of year as there is. Maybe into August, you see some highlights from practice, but everybody's healthy right now, and nobody's lost a game, and nobody's fumbled in preseason. Nobody's lost a quarterback. Like, everybody's feeling pretty good about themselves, Saints included. That's kind of where I am with this team as they enter training camp, and that'll crank up tomorrow. Ross Jackson will be out there for LouisianaSports.net. We'll be talking about it every single day. Tomorrow we'll talk to Sharif. Kat Terrell has committed to come on a little bit later in the week. We'll chat with Luke Johnson on Thursday. So we'll have the Saints discussion coming fast and furious for you as the summer comes to a close. Black and gold in Metairie tomorrow on the practice field. Fired up for it. Jordan, is there a storyline for you that is coming up more often?
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to see, because you can't replace DeMario Davis. There is no replacing DeMario Davis. Obviously, you bring in Caden Ellis to take that DeMario role. But we can't sit there and say that Pete Werner has that other spot locked up. They have two inside linebackers. They're pretty much only going to run with Caden Ellis and either Danny Stutzman or Pete Werner. So yeah. I'm really intrigued to see, is Stutzman going to take that leap you kind of want to see and beat out Pete for that spot? And I'm looking at Pete's contract. So after this year, he only has 1 year left on it. Yeah. So the Saints would like to essentially put Stutzman in that role and then move off Pete Werner next year. So I'm very intrigued to see how that battle is going to take place, because obviously Pete knows Stutzman here to take his job, and I'm not trying to get my job taken. Yeah. So it's going to be the fight of the fittest out of those two.
Stutzman had a very predictable rookie progression to okay, we know who he is, made 1 billion tackles at Oklahoma, out there a lot in the preseason, doesn't play early,
special teams
gets in some action as the months go on, then more action at the end of the season. It was just a very gradual rise, and that's what you want to see from, especially from guys you take in the middle of the draft, because they're not expecting those guys to help you much in September, but they can help you in November, and then as their contract moves forward, that's a big deal. So yeah, I like that. I like Saints defense. I'm confident in Brandon Staley, and I'm as I've said before, like, this is kind of a selfish way to look at things, but like, the end in LA was not good for Brandon Staley, and you hope, if you're a Saints fan, this is not Brandon Staley fan, but if you're a Saints fan, that stink stays on him for a little bit so that they can build some continuity until he gets another shot.
Just one more year. Let's see what we do this year, and then you know what, Staley, if you do a good job, just get out of town. Hit the road.
We shall see. All right, Saints back in action for training camp tomorrow. We'll certainly be talking about it. Monday show is brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. They're online at GuaranteeHealth.com. GuaranteeHealth.com. Come back and close it out next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com. HighlandIG.com is the website. Jonathan Carbo and his team really doing a lot of benefits work these days. If you are a CFO, you are a business owner, and that falls under your purview, call Jonathan Carbo and his team. I know that the renewals this time of year are bumpy. I know that a lot of folks are unhappy with the premiums they're paying to insure their employees with the healthcare and vision, dental, all that. If you need a second option or just want to discuss things, Jonathan Carbo and his team are happy to do it. They have had a lot of success in recent months with giving a second option to insureds, and that in turn helps the bottom line. I can't promise you a 12% reduction. There's not a magic wand, but they can often give you a second option, and sometimes it's cost effective, and it can change the bottom line for you in terms of your benefits expenses. So give them a call. It's the Highland Insurance Group. They're here in Baton Rouge. They can help you out statewide. They're online at HighlandIG.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. Guarantee Health Solutions, guiding health care forward. GuaranteeHealth.com.
Monday show is always brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. Rachel Fricke and her team just do outstanding work over at Guarantee Health Solutions. If you're in the healthcare space and have not considered the patient experience to the degree that you probably should have, that's where Guarantee Health Solutions comes in. Rachel went through this process with her mother after her mother was diagnosed with cancer, and she noticed just how impersonal the healthcare situation was. She noticed how unpleasant the process was and thought she could change it. She's got a background in hotels, in hospitality, and so she's taken that skill set to the healthcare world. So if you've got an urgent care, if you've got a hospital, if you've got a dental practice, or whatever the case may be, and you haven't thought about the functionality and ease to use of your website or your digital marketing spend, you haven't had your staff trained on how to handle patients as they come in, or you don't have a system in place that makes sure that patients come back for their follow-ups and annuals. These are all things that Guarantee Health Solutions can do while you're worried about healthcare. They're worried about helping your business succeed. It's Guarantee Health Solutions. We're online at GuaranteeHealth.com, GuaranteeHealth.com. All right, a lot to get to here on this Monday. We opened with Logan Schmidt, who left-handed pitcher from California, taken in the second round by the Guardians, and he's got an hour and 10 minutes to sign. He announced last night that he had no plans to do so. I was told that he would have to go to Goodyear, Arizona to take a physical. So if he has not boarded an airplane to go take a physical, then he's not going to be able to sign, and that would leave him unsigned as a second-round pick. And then he has two options. Go to LSU, where he's signed, or take the junior college route. LSU gives him the opportunity to just stay here for 3 years to develop and to potentially become the next Cade Anderson, to become the next Paul Skeens, Anthony Ianson, Gage Jump, guys who signed for north of $1.7 million. If he chooses to do that, he would be a big piece to LSU's program for 3 years. However, he's always considered himself a guy that was going to bypass college and sign professionally for a lot of money. And the junior college route allows him the chance to do that more quickly. So now it's Jay Johnson's job to convince him that LSU is the place for him. If you noticed in the Instagram post yesterday that there was no mention of LSU anywhere, just said I'm excited for what's next. And most often when guys don't sign for the draft or pull out of the draft, it's a go Tigers, seeing Baton Rouge put on the purple and gold, very pro LSU because that's what's next. And Schmidt didn't do that. So we'll see what LSU is able to do now that the deadline is passing for the Cleveland situation. There's not really a pressing deadline on them right now. You got to enroll in school at the fall somewhere, but that's down the road. It's still late July. So I'll keep you posted on that on this show. I'll keep you posted on that at LouisianaSports.net as well. My gut tells me that he's junior college bound, but Jay Johnson's a pretty good recruiter, and the sales pitch is pretty good. So if he can land him, that'd be a big, big deal. So you can catch that segment that led off the show on demand. It went into a little bit more detail about what happened. There was an agent switch and the whole deal. So that's at the top of the show. We also talked some Saints with Sean Fazan. You can find that at Hunt on Saints. Talked a little LSU in-depth chart with the returning games. If you want to check that out, you can. That's at Hunt on LSU. For right now, we just close out the show with some Take It or Leave It.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
All right, so North Carolina just seems like the circus that will never end. So USC football GM Mike Lombardi was placed on an administrative leave following a human resources complaint filed by a former football front office employee. So at this rate, is this looking like this will be Bill Belichick's last season in college football? Take it or leave it.
I'll take it, man. This is just a soap opera that no one wants to watch. It's a cancelable soap opera.
Yeah.
I don't even know what they did on the field last year. I have no idea what North Carolina football did last year. Were they like 4-8 or were they like 6-6?
They were atrocious. Max Johnson, I don't know the exact record. I just know they were bad.
I have no. All I know is that Bill Belichick's girlfriend runs around and that they've got people filing lawsuits, and it's just I have no interest. Get it out.
They're kind of like Colorado that you don't want to watch. At least with Colorado, it's like, let me just see what they look like. You kind of just want to push North Carolina to the side.
Colorado either.
Well, at first, they were good. They was good watch.
They got Travis Hunter and Shedeur.
Yeah. Nowadays, I don't even can tell you who's on the roster. So Indianapolis Colts quarterback Daniel Jones said Monday that he is fully cleared to participate in training camp from his December Achilles injury that prematurely ended his 2025 season. Keep in mind, he also had a broken fibula in the other leg at the same time. Ultimately, I guess is one of the reasons why he tore his Achilles. So is it insane to fully recover after two crazy injuries in the same month already? Take it or leave it.
I mean, modern medicine, I'll take it.
Modern medicine.
You know what I was thinking about? I probably shouldn't say this on the radio. I was thinking about this morning because their injury stuff's popping up all over the football stuff.
Yeah.
I've never gotten hurt. I'm 38 years old. My worst injury, I sprained my ankle.
Really? That's your worst injury?
I never broken anything, never torn anything.
I've never torn nothing.
Achilles.
I've broken my hand. I've broken my finger. I've had a concussion.
Nope. When I was a little kid, I put a bucket on my head and I hit the coffee table with my chin. Had to get stitches.
Oh, I'd be one better. I was running in Target and got smashed by one of them little shopping carts. Oh, I had to get stitches above my left eye and everything. I was bleeding. Oh yeah, I have a vivid memory of that.
But I just never gotten hurt. I wonder when my first injuries come. I mean, eventually.
Oh, don't do that. No, don't put it in the air.
Something's got to happen.
No, don't put it in there. You can't put that.
Well,
in there.
I probably shouldn't say it on radio.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Nah.
We're in the trust tree.
Yeah, we ain't got no wood in here.
Nothing's gonna happen.
We ain't got no wood in here. We're gonna knock on something. So. Jacob Mizorowski threw 66 fastballs yesterday versus the Rockies. All 66 were over 100 miles an hour, setting a new MLB record for the most 100-mile-per-hour fastballs in a single game. Mizorowski ended up striking out 12 out of the first 13 Colorado batters. So has the Miz taken throwing fastballs to another level? Take it or leave it.
I will take it. I'll take it. Breaking my heart. That organization, I do not know how they continue to do this.
Yeah.
Their business model as an organization is to draft players, bring them up right when they get to the end of their first contract, trade them, and then get three more guys to do the same thing. And it works every time.
Yeah, that's
They
kinda
traded
crazy.
their ace from last year, Freddie Peralta, to the Mets. He sucks out loud. He's terrible. And they traded him for prospects that are going to come up and just be superstars. And, they just do this time and time again. They let Willie Adames walk at shortstop to the Giants. They get better at shortstop. Bryce Train comes up and it drives me insane because they spend no money and trade all their good players, and they beat the Cubs by 1,000. It's unbelievable.
It's funny because the main person I thought about when you talked about what the Brewers do was Corbin Burns. Corbin Burns was elite, and he just
get up.
fell off the face of the planet now.
Get out.
You're right, man.
They don't pay anybody, and they just get three more dudes.
Unheard of. So that's it for Take It or Leave It.
All right, that's it for Take It or Leave It on this Monday. Again, hope your work week's off to a good start. Check out Guarantee Health Solutions online at guaranteehealth.com, guaranteehealth.com. In a way, we've made it through the long summer. In a way. Now, the Saints' first training camp practice doesn't move the needle too much because we're just going to throw some helmets on and jog around out there, but it is over. LSU baseball bowing out in May is not advisable from a content perspective. We didn't like that. But we made it through. Transfer portal for baseball, big. MLB draft, big. Lane Kiffin Vanity Fair stuff or SEC Media Days. We finally made it. We're through. We're to the football season. Saints on the practice field tomorrow. We'll have a full report from Sharif Ishak. We'll have more development on the Logan Schmidt situation with LSU baseball as well, and continue to get closer to LSU football, which is just over a week away. If you missed any of today's show, catch it on demand. Matt's back. He's going to drive you home on After Further Review. We're back tomorrow. Same time, same place. Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
But first, let me tell you about Fabry Chevrolet GMC, FabryChevrolet.com. That's FabryChevrolet.com. They're offering bonus cash on select new vehicles to firefighters, police officers, 911 dispatchers, EMT paramedics. And they got inventory to fit any budget. If you're looking for a GMC, they're offering employee pricing on the 2026 GMC Sierra 1500 Denali's. That's now until August 3rd. You can get on by and get up to $8,000 off of select Denali's. And Chevy's offering 0% APR financing for 5 years on the 2026 Silverado 1500s, plus no monthly payments for 90 days now until August 3rd. Those deals are rapidly coming to their conclusion, so get on by and see them on Highway 61 in St. Francisville. The entire inventory is on the website. That's FabryChevrolet.com. Experience that Fabry first-class customer service. That's what you get. That's what they've given you for 35 years. So check them out online at FabryChevrolet.com and go by and see them. Highway 61 in St. Francisville. Fabry Chevrolet GMC.